Hi, today we're going to take a look at the Smooth Q gimbal by Zhiyun. This is the first gimbal that we are looking at, and in this case this is a smartphone gimbal, so let's start. Today we're going to take our first look at a motorized gimbal by the Chinese manufacturer Zhiyun Tech, one of the leaders in this emerging industry, and the model that we shall be looking at today is called the Smooth Q, an entry-level smartphone gimbal by the company. I would like to start this review with a few basic reservations. First, consumer-level motorized gimbals are quite new, a couple of years at most, at least for the more basic models like the one that we are testing today. This means that manufacturers are still perfecting them with each new generation, both in terms of hardware and software, and there are bound to be some kinks. The second related point is that this is our first hand-on testing of such a unit, and hence, for us at least, we have no real point of reference. If you have lots of experience with gimbals, maybe you should check out some comparative reviews. There are plenty online, but if you're just starting with gimbals, this might be a good place to start to get an idea about what you might experience when you start using these types of contraptions. One last point before we start. A short time after we got the Smooth Q, Zhiyun Tech introduced the Smooth 3, a very similar unit also for smartphones, but one which is made from aluminium instead of plastic and has a somewhat different design and bottom layout, and it's also about twice the cost of the Smooth Q. The Smooth Q is 28 cm or 11 inches tall and weighs about 450 grams or 16 ounces. It is made out of a single plastic unit which can't be separated. It would have been nice if there was a way to remove the motorized part for travel, making the unit more compact when not in use. The plastic feels pretty strong, although it does tend to bend a bit in the handle and make little cracking noises. We can only imagine that the Smooth 3 aluminum handle does not have these issues, but this is the price that you have to pay for making this unit inexpensive. The only place where the plastic of the Smooth Q is less than ideal is the arm mechanism, which can be a bit hard to dial in precisely. In terms of general design, the unit is quite comfortable to hold and operate. The buttons and the round joystick are in a good location, at least for our hand. When using the Smooth Q app, you can do a number of things with the controllers on the unit. We're using the current Android version as of May 2017. A new version should arrive in a few weeks. iPhone users already have this version, so we're not going to go too much into it, as it will be replaced with a completely new version in the very near future. So let's go over the controllers. You have the on-off button, which you need to press for a few seconds to turn the unit on and off. It can also be used to start recording or shoot stills images depending on which mode you are on. Next, you have the zoom switch. It works in a bizarre way. It isn't smooth, it moves in jumps, and if you push it up or down for a few seconds, it changes between the front and back camera of the smartphone. Finally, you have the mode button, which is the most complex part of the gimbal, and we will get into it in a second. The Smooth Q comes with a really nice semi-hard case, strap, and a USB charging cable. You can use it to charge the very powerful internal battery of the unit. You can also use an external USB power pack to do the same. The USB connector on the back of the unit can charge your smartphone while it's on the gimbal, though as you can see, it's not very convenient. Since this is our first time using a gimbal for any substantial amount of time, we had quite a steep learning curve to go through. The first step here was to connect our smartphone to the gimbal. We used our OnePlus One smartphone. Yeah, it's a bit outdated now and the camera isn't really that great, as you will see, but for us it gets the job done. The OnePlus One has a 5.5-inch display. The gimbal can definitely hold it, but it requires opening the jaw of the grip part with two hands. We discovered that this is far from easy, as you need two hands to open the jaws and somehow still hold the phone so it won't slip out. On one occasion it did slip and fell. Luckily only the glass screen protector of our phone had broke, so you really need to be careful here. We also tried our old LG G2 phone with a smaller 5.2-inch display, and it was significantly easier to put in. We really wish this gimbal had a different locking mechanism which wasn't based on a super strong spring, but rather on some type of manual lock. On the plus side, once the phone is correctly placed inside the grip, it isn't going to go anywhere. Next, you need to make sure that the phone is as leveled as possible. This is done by playing with the gimbal's arm. The thing is that you need to be very precise here, and the mechanism isn't super delicate. I can only hope that with the higher end gimbals by the company, this process is easier. One more thing, which is a design issue: if you need to open the arm to balance the larger phone, the motor can get stuck in the base. This isn't a huge issue, but if the right arm would be longer, this would have been prevented and it would be much easier to carry the gimbal when not using it. Since with the current design you need to close down the arm to fit the gimbal into the case, which means leveling the phone again each time. Once you have your smartphone level, you can turn the unit on and start shooting with your own camera app or using the company's Android or iOS app. We have used the Zhiyun Tech app for Android as I've mentioned, but I'm not going to go too much into it as a new version is coming out very soon. It has a lot of features though. Generally, the gimbal is pretty easy to use, especially for video. You try to stay as stable as possible, frame your shot and either stay in one place or move, and the gimbal helps you keep your image stabilized. If you want to see how intuitive something is to use, we always suggest to give it to some kids. We gave this unit to our 9-year-old niece who was able to use it pretty quickly, although she didn't have to go through the setup process. The main drawback that we see in terms of actually using the gimbal, besides occasional instances where the gimbal just went crazy and we needed to do a restart, is choosing and moving between the different modes. I'll try to explain this to the best of my abilities. This actually took us some time, and Zhiyun Tech were even kind enough to send us a diagram to help us with this. There are several modes that we are aware of: follow, lock, full, and a selfie mode. The follow mode is the initial state when you turn on the gimbal. The smartphone will move with your hand left or right, and you can control the up and down or pitch movement with the joystick. Lock is the second mode. The smartphone is locked in position. It will try to keep the smartphone camera orientation as you move the gimbal. The joystick works in this mode in all directions, pitch and pan. The third mode is called full. We're not sure why. This is similar to the follow mode. The smartphone will follow your movements, but in this mode you can control the roll or incline of the camera. Pitch and pan are disabled. Finally, you have the selfie or backward mode. The smartphone in this mode will turn to shoot the user. If you're using the gimbal mode button, moving between the modes is the tricky part. You can also control the modes from the app control tab, but not from the camera tab sadly, in our app version at least. You can see on the screen right now that one click on the mode switch between the follow and lock modes, and double click goes to the full mode. But to go out of the full mode, you need to click once to go back to the follow mode. Triple click goes to the selfie, which is not exactly a mode since you can be in selfie, follow or lock by pressing the mode key once. Remembering all of this is quite hard to be honest, although you can probably get used to this after some time. These are a lot of options, which is nice. However, there is no indicator on the gimbal itself to which mode you're currently in. A small screen on the gimbal or even a number of small LEDs would be good indicators, and at the very least clear indication on the camera tab in the app, which does not exist in the current version of the Android app, would have been extremely helpful. One nice thing that you can do is remote control the gimbal using a second phone with the app and having the gimbal on a tripod, which is an interesting option in some situations. So let's try and conclude. The Smooth Q is a very useful tool which can help you get very creative with your shots. With the right smartphone it can be very effective, especially if you calibrate it correctly, apply the right settings and use the right technique. The Smooth Q is pretty comfortable to hold, has a very long battery life, plus the ability to charge your phone on the go, and you can mount it on all sorts of accessories as long as you have a 1/4 inch 20 screw on them. All this doesn't mean, of course, that the Smooth Q is without its drawbacks. We would definitely prefer the aluminum body that the Smooth 3 has. The smartphone holder is pretty annoying to use, especially for larger smartphones, and having to remove the case each time is also not our favorite part. The unit can go crazy from time to time, and the existing app for Android could be improved, which should hopefully happen very soon. The biggest drawback in our view, however, is the way you choose and work with the different modes. We simply found it difficult to understand in which mode we were in at any given time and changing between the different modes. This can easily be fixed in an updated app, as it will make using the gimbal so much easier. At the end of the day, even though this isn't a professional gimbal, Zhiyun Tech has the Smooth 3 and of course the Crane family of gimbals that work with actual cameras for that. Given the affordable pricing of just under $140, it is very hard to criticize, and if you take it for what it is, you might be able to get quite a bit out of it. So this was our look at the Zhiyun Smooth Q smartphone gimbal. You can read the full review on lensvid.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next time.